We feel a deep responsibility to ensure that the games we make, the devices we build, the services that we offer are there through moments, even when the industry isn't growing and when you're through a time of transition.
What made subscription services so appealing when they really started to boom a couple of years ago was that you were actually getting a deal. It was relatively affordable, and you kind of could easily forget about that. When you have to consciously think about, is this worth it or not anymore, that kind of tells you how broken this system is. And Xbox finds them in that position, which now many gamers are realizing, I'd rather actually own my games than rent them, especially if I'm paying $360 fucking dollars a year for an ultimate experience to get day one games. A lot of people just seeing it as not worth it anymore, and that is a problem that Xbox does not have an answer to. And ultimately, the AAA games industry, when people talk about games, they love to say that everybody's spending money on microtransactions, everybody's investing in all these live services, everybody's buying 30, 40 games a year. That's just not the case. Maybe the hardcore gamers, but the average Joe, the average gamer is buying maybe 1 or 2 new games a year. Surveys and studies have actually indicated most gamers are playing older games, and even with newer experiences, they're waiting for sales. This is a luxury. This gaming experience, this gaming medium is a luxury. It is not a necessity. And that is one of the things that these entertainment companies, not just in gaming, do not understand, or they do not care. One of the big criticisms that has been facing Game Pass for a while, and actually for years now, is about the sustainability and the profitability, because many detractors have said that this is not going to work out long term, and many of them can probably pat themselves on the back right now, because it definitely appears that either Xbox is not making the money that they need, or they're being greedy, or maybe even both. But Sarah Bond, the Xbox president, was asked about Game Pass just the other day, just before all of these changes were implemented. And she seemingly indicated that everything was a-okay, they're headed in a positive direction, they're making record revenue, but it definitely just does not add up. So speaking in an interview with Game Watch, she said, well, she was asked about Game Pass, and she revealed an impressive sales number. She said last fiscal year, Xbox Game Pass sales reached a record high of $5 billion. She continued, she said, it's a profitable business, and as more creators join Xbox Game Pass, payments to creators increase, so we think it's a good business for creators. And she continued talking about how they were expanding to other developers, saying, we're building relationships with many well-known game creators in Japan and across Asia. We are thrilled that they are willing to collaborate with us and actively ship their games on our platform. This response just does not add up with what we are seeing. Sarah Bond, a C-suite executive, I think is blatantly lying here. There has to be a lot more going on behind the scenes in terms of conversations between Microsoft leadership and Xbox. Microsoft more focused on AI these days, but they still look at the investment, the massive investment that they did into the gaming sector, in which they spend billions on Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, and a number of other studios, and so far they're not seeing the numbers that they wanted. And I think clear indication of that came last year. We heard this from Xbox head Phil Spencer in a couple of interviews that really indicated to me that Game Pass was not showing the growth that they really hoped for. You look to this VGC opinion piece, Phil Spencer, long cast as Xbox savior, maybe remembered as the man who killed it, and it highlights a recent interview at the time with Polygon, in which he said, without new customers, everybody else's customers, your success date. You can't succeed unless you draw in customers from other publishers and other platforms, and because you're not finding new customers with the games that you're building, everybody's kind of fighting over the same size pie. When you have an industry that is projected to be smaller next year in terms of players and dollars, and you get a lot of publicly traded companies that are in the industry that have to show their investors growth, because why else does somebody own a share of someone's stock if it's not going to grow? The side of the business that gets scrutinized is the cost side, because if you're not going to grow the revenue side, then the cost side becomes challenged. And then he continued in another interview in November last year. He said, the console space all up isn't growing across all of them. We love these customers, but in terms of continuing to expand and grow Xbox, it's about PC, it's about cloud, and it's about making our games more available in more places. And I think that's where you get an understanding about the decision making the last year or two, why they're pushing this is an Xbox marketing campaign. And I also think that it just has not worked out in the way that they hoped for. And this ultimately is their last last straw in which they realize, or maybe Microsoft leadership's like, well, you're going to have to throw those costs up because this is not sustainable for us. So I looked at what Sarah Bond says, and I just don't believe it for a second. And trusting any of these billion, trillion dollar companies is always foolish, but I looked to some of the things that have happened just in the last year or two, like the Hi-Fi Rush situation. Microsoft instantly came out, we're so satisfied, we're happy with this gaming experience, it made the money it needed. A couple months later, the studio shut down and the sequel's canceled. Sometimes they're just completely dishonest, and I think this is another instance of it. And even so, them trying to say that all developers are really happy, they want to get invested in the subscription model, there's been some notable detractors. Sven Vink of Larian, behind the game Baldur's Gate 3, was one of the most notable against it, saying, whatever the future of games looks like, content will always be king, but it's going to be a lot harder to get good content if subscription becomes the dominant model and a select group gets to decide what goes to market and what not. Direct from developer to players is the way. He continued saying, you won't find our games on a subscription service, even if I respect that for many developers, it presents an opportunity to make their game. I don't have an issue with that, I just want to make sure that the other ecosystem doesn't die because it's valuable. And right now, I think a lot of gamers are starting to see the value in owning your games, the value of paying a premium for those games and having access to it forever, because there's many that have invested in the Xbox platform for many years and they're now realizing they're soon not going to have access to these games unless they're coughing up $360 a year. So with the outrage that has erupted over these Game Pass changes, you might be wondering, how is Microsoft feeling about all of this? Well, we got a response just the other day. As Insider Gaming has the story, Microsoft tries to defend Xbox Game Pass increase. Goes on to say, while speaking with The Verge, Microsoft's Director of Gaming and Platform Communications, Dustin Blackwell, spoke about the move and said it's something they didn't take lightly as a company. They knew that this was coming. They knew there was going to be outrage. They had to have weighed all of these possibilities. That's why Sarah Bond, when she made those comments the other day, she knew that this was coming. She also knew that she wasn't being completely honest to the public with her response. At least that's what I believe based on those remarks and what's happened. This is what Blackwell said. He says, we understand price increases are never fun for anybody, but we're trying to reinforce by adding more value to these plans as well. This is what they're talking about. This is the shit that they're talking about. It's only one tier that actually got an upgrade, if we're being honest. And it's the fact that you get Ubisoft Plus classics. I've seen people online saying, now you get access to Ubisoft Plus. Aren't you happy? You can play the newest Assassin's Creed, Far Cry. That's not this. You get select access to some classic games like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood that you can fucking buy on a shelf at GameStop or go to the flea market and find for $5. This isn't a massive deal. And then there's also Fortnite Crew, which, yeah, for some Fortnite players who invest heavily into that game, good for you, I guess, but I don't know how many of those individuals are even invested into the Game Pass platform, because they're probably spending most of their time playing Fortnite, of all things. But Blackwell, he does continue. He says, it's something we don't take lightly, and we're listening to the feedback of players. I mean, the original feedback was that these Game Pass upgrades were a necessity. You looked at that video that we talked about just the other day.
Xbox Game Pass is getting an upgrade. We've listened to your feedback, and now you have even more freedom to choose how you play the games you want.
That was the invented upgrade and feedback of freedom and all of that nonsense they tried to spill out. Nobody believed it for a second. That's why I don't take this seriously. Them listening, if they don't care, they knew that this was coming. They knew the outrage and the uproar was going to be extreme. They did not care. Instead, they tried playing us for fools, making up this stupid excuse of upgrading the ultimate by incorporating stuff that we don't care about. Ubisoft Plus classics, most of us have played those games. I have them sitting on a shelf. Had been there, done that. I don't need that. Fortnite, most of us aren't playing Fortnite. This was, if you're talking about freedom, this is something, maybe have another tier or have it as an add-on or an optional thing. They did not want to do that. It was just an excuse to increase prices. And that's why them trying to come up with, actually, we upgraded it for you. Nobody is believing that unless you're a super hardcore corporate bootlicker. And yeah, it goes on to say, we're listening to the feedback of players in the community to try to provide them with more of what they're asking for. Nobody was asking for this, but yet we got it. And he goes on to say, we're also now giving access to more than 75 day one releases each year. That's a 50% increase over the day one titles we provided last year. You want to know what games he's highlighting, what he's talking about? He says, yeah, Black Ops 7, The Outer Worlds 2. Obviously, there are some great day one releases that they've had, but their Xbox division has been in turmoil for a long time. The massive Game of the Year contenders that we thought we were going to be getting It has not happened, and it's because of the mismanagement from executives like Matt Booty, who has done a horrific job, but for some reason keeps getting raises and he keeps going up the ladder in Xbox leadership. I don't get it. I don't. But Black Ops 7, heavily disliked right now, a lacking interest in this experience, especially with Battlefield 6 on the way, and The Outer Worlds 2 has had some very underwhelming previews as of late. And then you look to all the other experiences over the last couple of years that have disappointed: Redfall, Starfield, the various games that have been canceled, Everwild, Contraband, Perfect Dark. The Xbox division has been a disaster, and they're not consistently delivering premium experiences that make this worth it, in my opinion. And then they try to highlight indie darlings, Blueprints, Expedition 33, and Hollow Knight Silksong. You can get all of those games, own it for yourselves at a combined $60, $70 rather than subscribing to a service for $360. But when we're talking about these Game Pass changes and the anger right now from the gaming community, it isn't just with this price of going up 50%. It's the other stuff here. It's the fact that cloud gaming, they've made massive investments in that. We're now seeing them paywall various things, such as, yeah, if you want to get up to 1440p, you have to be subscribed to Ultimate. And there's other stuff associated with that, such as, you see this little star right here on the premium. It's probably hard to see. I'll maybe zoom in for you. But yeah, new Xbox published games within a year of launch. That's the premium tier. And they write down here, right in their terms, excludes Call of Duty titles. So yes, Black Ops 7, say it's not going to be day one, obviously, but if you're thinking maybe you'll get it in the first year, that ain't happening, unfortunately. So those 200 plus games, Call of Duty can be removed from the equation. You want to know why? Because that is their big franchise. That is their staple franchise. And either you're subscribing to Ultimate or you're coughing up $70, $80 or so for it. And you still have to be subscribed to the Essential tier because that's the only way you can access online console multiplayer. No idea why that still is a thing here in the year of 2025. But there's other stuff going on. Xbox removing Game Pass discount on Call of Duty add-ons. The greed is just insurmountable. Charlie Intel said Xbox removed the 10% discount that Ultimate members could get on add-on content for Call of Duty, including removing the discount on Call of Duty points in Black Cell as part of the changes to Game Pass this week. Again, this platform is just getting extremely greedy, and all it indicates to me is that they are not making the money that they needed or that they envisioned. And look, they're pushing all of these changes down people's throat. They're doing it so much that they're actually pushing these advertisements to everybody's console. Tom Warren of The Verge pointing out that Xbox consoles are now getting a full-screen Xbox Game Pass Ultimate ad at boot just a day after a 50% price hike was announced. And look, the outrage, the anger is enormous. And you look to the announcement pages. Here's the YouTube page. You can see right here what's new and what's changing with Xbox Game Pass. 42,000 dislikes. This is the comment section. Cancel a subscription. That's how I play now. Nobody can kill Xbox better than Microsoft themselves. This is how we play now. Sounds like the most unintentionally threatening slogan I've ever seen. And it does. It really does. It goes from like, yeah, you can play anywhere you want, to now it's like, yeah, this is how you're going to play and you're going to accept it or not. Ben subscribed to Ultimate for years and happily canceled without even a flinch. Especially as a Canadian, the price was beyond egregious. Changing the name from standard to premium is some crazy Black Mirror episode stuff. Congratulations, you've convinced me to not renew my subscription next month. And it goes on and on. It is just tons and tons of people critical over this decision. They had another video again announcing the changes. This one has 9,000 dislikes, and as somebody points out, in a different region of Brazil, the Game Pass Ultimate price just went up by 100%. That's insane for our market, and there's already a huge wave of cancellations happening. Please, Xbox, review your regional pricing. You're pushing players away instead of bringing them closer. I don't think Microsoft leadership gives a shit anymore. This is how we play now. Me canceling subscription, not me. I prefer the old way. Hey, we aren't killing our business quick enough. Anybody got any ideas? Phil Spencer. When she said we listen to your feedback, she was talking about the shareholders. Nobody asked for Ubisoft EA $3 games to be included. $30 now, y'all crazy. It goes on and on. It is just every single comment is calling them out for this greedy, stupid decision. You guys have screwed up, right? It's just nonstop. And look, this is Google Trends showing the amount of people that are right now searching cancel Xbox Game Pass. It is enormous, and that is the only way to voice your displeasure and get these companies to actually understand and react. But I very much think that they had to have incorporated some of this into their model and their decision making. They had to have known that cancellations were on the way. But it's not just gamers that we're seeing various articles coming about. Paul Tassi of Forbes saying why I just canceled Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. IGN even ran their own article article saying the Xbox generation will be remembered for one thing: greed. And then another article from Forbes is Eric Kane saying it's time to get rid of your Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription. The anger is everywhere. And even on Reddit, we're having people pointing out it's pretty crappy that the email Ultimate subscribers are getting today does not mention the price increase at all. I love this. Same name, more benefits. Like, it's just one way to... They really want to push this. It's a massive upgrade you guys are getting. Please believe our marketing nonsense that nobody's actually believing, but yet they're trying to shove it down people's throats. And then another person rightfully pointing out this will not be the last price increase to Game Pass, in my opinion. The last price increase is absurdly not worth it, in my opinion, but it wasn't the first, and I think it will not be the last. Price of Ultimate was 13 euros until September 2023. Then it was 15 in 2024. It was 18 until now. I think it's like 20 US dollars. Now ultimate price is going to be 30. While previous price increases were somewhat okay, this one is not, in my opinion. Also, premium does not include Call of Duty, which I could care less about. Still a big game for Xbox. And look, even if they go back and change it, say, oh, we were listening, we're going to decrease it by $6-7, it doesn't matter. The damage is done. You cannot trust this company, and I am fully believing that this is only going to continue to increase in the future. Right now it's 30. In a couple of years it's going to be 40-50. They will not stop. There is not going to be a stop. That is something that is becoming very obvious, not just with Xbox's Game Pass service, but all of its subscription services. It is getting extremely unaffordable fast. And Club Royale, known Xbox person in the community, just pointed out all of the nonsense that we've been seeing. Aggressive ads everywhere in the OS, full screen promotions of sales. The only relevant Xbox OS changes that customers receive these days exist to increase per customer spending, wishlist enhancements, game cards you need to turn off to directly start your game, all dev resources used to bring Xbox PC forward. Xbox consoles basically feel like being in maintenance mode. Yeah, I don't see the purpose of owning an Xbox console in the year of 2025. I don't see why anybody would want to buy the next generation Xbox. They don't care about the platform. 2 console price raises in 1 year, especially with that, the price point continuing to increase, like the Xbox One or the Xbox Series X started off at $500, now it's $650. If you want to get the best one, it's $800. You can own a PS5 Pro for $750. Price hikes on Xbox accessory, that's another one. Expensive ROG Xbox Ally hardware, I think it's like $1,000. Failed attempt at going $80 with the Outer Worlds 2, $80 on future Xbox titles, probably still stands. Brutal in its scale, massive layoffs. Yes, various studios being shut down, many developers losing jobs, multiple game cancellations and partial studio shutdowns, insane Game Pass Ultimate 50% price hike, among other Game Pass changes. Just thinking about that and that little small paragraph here puts into perspective how chaotic things have just been in the last year or so with this company, and why anything that they're doing moving forward, you cannot trust them. I would not be surprised to see Microsoft shut this division down completely in a couple of years, especially if the money just doesn't get to where they think it needs to. And it's not like Microsoft cares about gaming anymore. The big AI revolution is their focus. And look, this is other stuff. Like, it's not going to stop here. It's not going to be just like maybe Game Pass increases further. They're going to be doing other nonsense. Microsoft considering in-game ads for free-to-play titles. This is a report from a couple of years ago, and I fully believe in-game ads and stuff like this is coming. Xbox Maker would not take revenue cut and limit ads to a select group of brands at first. It's that key thing. It's always at first, and then they pull off the shenanigans. And look, it's not even just there. Microsoft is exploring offering free Xbox Game Pass streaming with ads. And this is something that was leaked just the other day. This was before the changes. Somebody leaked that this is coming in 2026. There's going to be a new tier which is going to be relying on ads. So yes, they're following the Disney Plus, Netflix, all of them. It's probably going to be like $6 or $7, but you have to have a 30-second ad maybe every 30 minutes or so. No idea how that's going to work, but it is only going to get worse. So, as of recording this video, we got this update from The Verge. Microsoft is about to launch free Xbox Cloud Gaming with ads, so it looks like it's coming sooner than 2026. And as Wario64 summarizes, internal testing right now has 1-hour sessions with up to 5 hours free a month. Ad-supported version will include streaming, some games you own, eligible free play days titles, Xbox Retro Classics. Pre-roll ads are around 2 minutes before a game. My God, the gates of hell is about to be unleashed with ads coming to this service. This company company can turn down the prices, but the damage has been done, and it's only going to get worse on this platform. And I don't see why anybody would want to get invested in the Xbox platform with how dirty that they've done their consumers and their community. Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, Matt Booty, all of them would jump on stage about 5 or so years ago saying we were really thinking about the Xbox community because that's the only thing that they had going for them at the time. Then they bought all the studios, they ran many of them into the ground, and now we're being met to insurmountable greed, which maybe was always the end goal for Game Pass. It was never about the gaming community, the gaming industry, the health of that. That was something Phil Spencer constantly said. I don't believe that for a second. And because of the fact that they have not had the growth that they hoped for, we're seeing them do what Game Pass was probably always going to do, have just insane high prices, especially at a time in which the game industry continues to push the game price. You know, owning a game, $60, $70, $80, they want that to get to $100. So people are forced into these subscription services. It just shows you the dangers of supporting something like Game Pass, and I think that this has been a great lesson for gamers of why we should be steering clear of a subscription service like Game Pass moving forward. But anyway, there's a lot of different opinions on Game Pass, the future, and the leaks and everything that is to come. Let me know your thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on the response that we got from Xbox, which is just a horrific defense of it's terrible greed. That is what has happened here. But yeah, let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.